Hello and welcome to this very special show. We're calling it Endgame Mallya because what is being considered as India's big boost in fight against bad loans embattled former liquor baron Vijay Mallyas arrest has been made by Scotland Yard in London today at the request of the Indian authorities. Mallia, who appeared in a London police station on Tuesday morning, was released on bail subject to certain conditions. Now, top government sources have told your channel that with Mallia's arrest, a beginning has been made as far as the extradition proceedings go. They could in fact be lengthy. Legal experts say hearing will now start in the UK court, which will decide if Mallia will be extradited to India, where he is facing fraud charges, not just default, but also money laundering charges. The move comes within weeks after the Indian government moved a formal extradition request citing the cases against him. Under the bail terms, Mallia will be confined to the UK up until the extradition plea against him is decided. We've got a power-packed lineup right here for you. Mr. Gurcharan, Mr. Jain, Gupta, Hitesh, Jain, KTS, Tulsi all join us, and we'll also have Soli Sorabji joining us on the show in a while from now. But thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. And Mr. Tulsi, if I may just kick off things with you on the show this evening, the arrest has been made, and it's a rather high-profile arrest. This issue was on the public radar for a while now. Vijay Mallya was seen absconding, was seen very brazen. What does the arrest really mean today, according to you?
Well, it means the process of extradition, first step has been taken, first step by the requested state. But what is clear is that if he has been granted bail, provisional bail, normally under Article 12 of the treaty between UK and India, the extradition treaty, the provisional bail is normally granted after 60 days. If in 60 days the entire evidence and all is not received from the requesting state, then the bail is granted. But if the bail has been granted just now, on immediately after arrest, it means that it's an extraordinary order, which is normally passed only when the court comes to the conclusion that either the prosecution is not in good faith or is unjust and oppressive.
All right, that's a valid point being made, and I'm going to delve into that just a little deeper. But Mr. Jain, Gupta, do you agree with this? The arrest is, of course, very symbolic, but what does the immediate bail mean at this stage?
See, I would say that Mr. Tulsi could be right, because I am not a legal expert like Mr. Tulsi, but I would, from whatever knowledge of law I have, that he has been granted a conditional bail, and the conditional bail in UK is much more different than what we have in India. In India, people keep on jumping the bail, nothing happens. But in a UK system, once you are on a bail and if you jump the bail, it is a very serious offence. So at least this conditional bail ensures that Mr. Mallia will remain in UK and will not be going anywhere without the court's permission. And it is a process unlike in India, when you put people on trial and you keep them in the jail without any reasons. So in UK, etc., you don't keep people in the jail without any trial which has come to the certainty or some crime has been. So at least this process ensures one thing, that Mr. Mallia, till the trial is completed, will be under the eyes of the court, and he will not be leaving UK without anything. That means from one safe haven to another safe haven will not be possible for Mr. Mallia at this stage. And we all know that extradition proceedings are very long-term proceedings. So it would be impractical for us to believe that once he is arrested, he will be put behind the bar in UK, and extradition proceeding, whether it continues for 6 months or a year, and he will continue to be behind bar. No, that will not be. But yes, the process has started. What will be the final outcome of the process? It will be anybody's guess. But as we understand, this time it appears that the case is strong, because Mr. Mallia has been charged with not only defrauding the bank, but under anti-money laundering law. And we would say that today in the international context, anti-money laundering law is one of the most potent tools in the hands of the government to ensure justice, because all developed countries of the world are at least centered on one thing, that money laundering is a crime which cannot be allowed to happen. So let us see, because it will be anybody's guess what happened, and it will be foolish on my part to say that government will be successful or not at this stage.
All right, just hold your thoughts there and let's get in Mr. Gurcharan Das, and just to take the discussion away from the legal luminaries for a minute. Mr. Gurcharan Das, Vijay Mallya almost became the symbol, or he was symbolic of these defaulters who were brazen in their attitude, almost unapologetic, unrepenting in that sense. And so his arrest comes as this huge chest-thumping moment for the government and for the law enforcement agencies as well. How big or a significant a move do you really believe this is today?
Well, the arrest really shows that there is cooperation between Indian and British authorities. I think that's the most important, the most significant aspect of what's happened today. Now, as the other people have pointed out, there is a long process ahead, and finally the took place also did show that prima facie that the government of India had a strong case in this case. But this will have to be proven in an extradition proceeding, and we shall find out. Now, as to the symbol that Mr. Mallya was, well, he was bigger than life. But, you know, at the end of the day, we should not judge people for their lifestyles. We do. That's human nature. But I think we should try and avoid that. The issues here are legal issues. Did he commit a crime? The loans that he took. Now, what if we'd had a bankruptcy law, and if he had declared Fisher bankrupt? What would have been his liabilities under those cases? So these are questions which courts, I think, will will look at. The good thing in all this today, frankly, is that it shows that the law catches up with you, that people who flee the country, they are caught, and I think whether Mallya, how much wrongdoing he did and what he owes, is not so important as the fact that he did something wrong in fleeing the country when the courts wanted him here, and that's been sort of the kind of justice that has been served today.
Indeed, you brought in very important points to this discussion, and I'm going to take this back to Hitesh Jain. And Hitesh, you know, Mr. Tulsi made an opening point, and I think that's very important to keep sight of as well, that while the UK authorities and the government of India is trying to, you know, look cooperative, and they are cooperating on his extradition, and at least process has begun, the UK court has given him a bail, and has given him a bail very soon. They haven't even waited for arguments to be made from the Indian side. In that sense, do you believe the UK courts believe he is being prosecuted? He could be made a political scapegoat of sorts. I mean, yes, the arrest has been made, but look at the speed at which the bail has been granted as well.
Well, order of bail does not mean that this is an order which pronounces him innocent or political scapegoat and all. The Western countries, particularly UK and US, are very liberal, unlike India, with their bail jurisdiction. For them, what is important is they do not believe in just putting the person behind the bars at a pre-trial stage, but they believe that there has to be an expeditious trial, and then whatever be the outcome of the trial, then the person should serve the sentence. So as far as UK is concerned, US is concerned, they do not believe in pre-trial detention like how we believe, I mean, like what's going on in India, where people are just simply kept languishing. So merely the only reason why a pre-trial bail is granted, so that the person cooperates and just the trial, and he is available for the during the trial, and the proceedings are completed expeditiously. So we should not read any sign whether it's a political scapegoat or this order of innocence on the, as far as the order releasing him on the bail is concerned.
Okay, Shrinate. I'm going to take this to Mr. Jain Gupta. And Mr. Jain Gupta, do you necessarily agree with the two arguments that have been made? That KTS Tulsi believes this is a sign of some kind of a sympathy, but the UK courts, Hitesh says, let's not read too much because courts, they don't delay things and they decide expeditiously, and this is perhaps what has happened.
See, I would again reiterate the same point that the bail at this stage does not mean anything positive or negative. The courts have not gone into the merits of the case. It only ensures that they have taken cognizance of the case and they have asked the gentleman that you are on the bail, you are under our surveillance, you do not leave the country, and if you leave the country, take our permission. That's all. It ensures availability of Mr. Mallya for a trial in the country. How the case pans out in future, nobody knows. What are the arguments for and against, nobody knows at this juncture. But as we understand, the case from the Indian point of view is strong. Whether the same thing is felt by the judicial authorities in UK is yet to be seen. So I would not say the bail, and as Hitesh was pointing out, that in jurisdiction in UK and US and many other jurisdictions, bail, and as Supreme Court in India also has said that bail is the fundamental right of the person. But in India what happens? Enforcing the bail and making sure that the person on the bail doesn't disappear is difficult in India, but it is not at all difficult in UK and US. When you are on bail, you are under surveillance.
Under surveillance when you are on bail, and it should not be read as anything positive or negative, even though our lawyers in the panel seem to differ. But Mr. Tulsi, how long before extradition proceedings really begin? I mean, a lot of people believe this is going to expedite extradition, and it could be expedited because the government seem to be, at least their minds seem to be meeting. But do you still believe we're many a step away from extradition, and there could be many events in between, many delaying tactics that could be put to use? Mr. Tulsi?
Well, it could take up to a year easily, because in requesting state, that is India, is supposed to send the evidence which is taken on oath by the court, and it has to be certified. It is certified by the Indian court. After that, the court in UK will evaluate that evidence in the presence of lawyers of the requesting state as well as that of the person who is thought to be extradited. And so therefore that examination of the entire evidence that is sent by the requesting state takes time. Sometimes it can take up to a year, and it's an independent assessment that is made by the UK court.
Hitesh Jain, legally speaking, what are some of Vijay Mallya's defenses right now? Because he's not just being tried at this stage for default, he's also being tried for money laundering, and the ED is on a lookout as well. So in that sense, what could be his defense be? And that defense is perhaps going to be very well his delaying tactic.
Well, as we know, insofar as money laundering is concerned, the burden is always on the accused, unlike in normal criminal law where the burden is on the prosecution. So Mr. Mallya has been speaking in the press, he is giving a lot of interviews that he has got this defense, he has not siphoned the money. So the real test of Mr. Mallya is now, if he will have to come clean, he will have to demonstrate when the money came into the company, how that money was used and everything, whether it was siphoned or what has happened, or whether it's a genuine business transaction which has resulted in a genuine business law, so business loss. So all these issues which Mr. Mallya, who has been speaking and directing from London to the authorities in India by giving interviews to the media or on the Twitter handle, that all these things he will have to prove. The burden will be upon him. Money laundering law is a very strict economic offence, and unlike the other criminal law, the distinction in the as far as money laundering law is concerned, the burden is on the accused to prove that he is innocent. So this is going to be a hard battle for Mr. Mallya, and he will have to really provide the evidence as to whether and about the money trail and how the money has passed when it has come to the company.
Okay. Okay, let's broad base this discussion a little. And Gurcharan Das, do you honestly believe that Vijay Mallya is to be blamed for what has happened today? He himself spoilt the case beyond redemption. He not just knowingly flee the country, he was a sign of this flashy life that promoters were living even though they owed big money to banks. He knowingly, as a sitting MP, fled the country, did not come back. He did not sit on the negotiating table with banks. He kept tweeting. He gave interviews to, international media about how innocent he was, playing the victim card. Things could have been very different had he been willing to cooperate by being in India. Do you agree with me?
Yes, I think so. I think, frankly, first of all, let's not judge him for his lifestyle. Each of us has, that is a private matter that we all have, and let's not judge that. But what we can judge is the fact that he owes money, and if there is a charge of money laundering, that's a very serious charge. But the offenses that are involved, this was something that should have been up to the courts, and he should have presented himself to the courts. That is what every citizen is expected to do. The problem with it's also a bit of an indictment of our judicial system, because why it takes so long. The Harshad Mehta thing is still going on, and at least in this case, the things that the Indian citizen can feel is that at least we have caught him. Now, as to what he did wrong, I think that it's not easy. The airline business is a risky business. He built a great airline. It became number 2, but he overextended himself, and it was a bad business decisions that he took. Now, those are not criminal offenses. Those are just bad business judgments, and where the creditors are due, they have to be paid back for some of those decisions. Some of these are the fact is that there is a law of limited liability in a company, so you can only up to only a certain point you can take the money from him. So I think it's not a black and white story. It's a gray story. And yes, you're absolutely right. He hurt his cause by not presenting himself to the courts. After all, we do have a rule of law. Even if that law is very, very slow and inefficient, but we do have a rule of law. And that's now catching up with him.
All right, the rule of law is catching up with him, but Jain, Gupta, I want you to come in on the business decisions that have gone bad. And in Vijay Mallya's case, that is so true of Kingfisher Airlines. Yes, we're not going to comment on his flashy lifestyle, but don't you believe he's paying a price for that? Because in the list of top 20 defaulters in the country, his name doesn't feature, and yet he has become this symbolism of errant promoters.
See, I would partially agree and partially disagree with Mr. Das. I would agree that nobody should bother about the personal life of a person as long as he is living it out of his own money. But in this case, it's not a purely decision of a Kingfisher going bad, a bad business decision. It is a mix of all. What happened? Kingfisher was made, there were bad decisions, but there were bad actions also. The siphoning of fund is not a bad business decision relating to business. It is relating to diversion of fund from a company. And when on that diverted fund you are not paying your employees, you have taken duties from them and you have not paid them, you have not paid taxes, you have not paid for fuel, and on those money you are running a lifestyle which is a lavish lifestyle, then the two are getting mixed. So you cannot isolate business and lifestyle, because here in Mr. Mallya's case, they became an integral part of one thing. Second, in normal course, as Mr. Das was saying, that if there was a bankruptcy law, probably nothing would have happened. Probably the creditors would have taken the cut, banks would have taken the cut, and even employees would have been paid less salary and whatever would happen. But here it is not a case of bankruptcy, it is a case where the business has gone bad, maybe because of the circumstances or maybe because of the thing that you have diverted money out of the business. Now, none of us know what is the actual quantum of what has been diverted, what is the actual thing, but the allegations are of this nature that the business became bad because of diversion of fund as well. So, there could be 2 or 3 reasons for business going bad. One could be the environment, one could be the airline industry itself was bad, but second and most important is your action of diverting funds from the company which hurt your business.
Right. Hitesh, Jain, very quickly, I've got to wrap this, so I'm going to ask you the question, what next now? When does the government of India present its own extradition case, which it will have to make a case for before the UK authorities? So what really follows next? He's been granted bail, he's at home, he's going to be under surveillance. How many months or a year do you see before he's being extradited? What follows up next?
Well, now the extradition proceedings will commence, and extradition proceedings in UK usually takes 12 to 18 months at the highest, and the government will have to produce the evidence. The most important point, they will have to prove that it is not a persecution, but the offence is extraditable. This is an extraditable offence. There is a clear evidence which shows his involvement. So you cannot, I mean, it's not just now mere allegations, but the evidence will be tested in the real time. So it will be the test of the government. I mean, when you have to go to the in the international country and then demonstrate. So the government will have to really do its homework, because in the last case we know was that Nadeem Saifi's case, but that was under the IPC offence, where the courts had come to the conclusion that the government was unable to prove the case that he was involved, and there was no prosecutable evidence. So the government will have to make sure that they put their best foot forward and they really show that they have a case against Mr. Mallya and that there is an evidence to back the entire allegations.
KTS Tulsi, if I may ask you a question about the political equations that are weighing, and I think the point that Hitesh Jain made, it cannot be a case of prosecution or political equations that are weighing on this. How is this going to impact what judges in UK decide upon? Because there is an entire political angle to this case as well, is it not?
Well, so far as the law is concerned, it is not concerned with the political equation. Political equation, of course, it raises an eyebrow. The fact that there was a lookout circular which would have prevented him from leaving the country. That lookout circular was ordered to be withdrawn, and when that lookout circular was withdrawn, soon thereafter he left the country. The question is, who ordered the withdrawal of the lookout circular, and was this done was it a part of design, or was it a mistake, or was someone actually complicit in ensuring that he leaves the country?
So I'll let you have the last word on this show, Mr. Gurcharan Das. What is the message that other errant promoters or other defaulters in India need to read out of this? Because this is also a part of the big NPA cleanup. Perhaps the first step being taken. What is the cue that promoters should draw from this? And some really large loan defaulters. Vijay Mallya is still not in the list of top 20. There are men and women out there who owe a lot more to India's lenders.
Right. Right. Well, I think one of the lessons is that you cannot jump the country and just think that you'll be in a safe haven. The law, in that respect, does catch up with you. Now, it's absolutely important that in this extradition court, that there be a strong defense or a prosecution made for him. And if there is a strong case, then that will be another message when he is extradited and brought back, and then of course the law will take its own course. But overall, what we want as citizens is for the law to take its course. We don't want people who are willful defaulters. We want, and I personally think that this new bankruptcy law will revolutionize this whole area and bring it under a lot more rationality than we've had. So there's a message for defaulters, there's a message for the judiciary to really get its act together. This slow process of years and years and years, people are disgusted, and people are disgusted with that, and that's another another message here.
Right. So plenty of cues to be taken there, but it's a big day as far as the Indian law enforcement is concerned. Vijay Mallya arrested, has been granted bail, but many people believe this is the first step towards his extradition. Thank you very, very much, Gurcharan, Mr. Jain, Gupta, Mr. Hitesh, Jain and Mr. Tulsi for joining us. Thanks, viewers, for tuning in. There's plenty more that's coming up right here on ET Now, including our mega exclusives.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/ETNow.